So my story is about how could we go from miserable to amazing by a very simple visioning process, markers, white paper, a timeline, and a wordless picture book. This is what we did. We wanted our community to be able to vision what it wanted to be. So we did beautiful visioning meetings. We did 32 of them all across our community. We invited everyone. We had little bitty kids, we had elderly people, we had every different color of skin, every different kind of economic background. We had the meetings in churches and we had the meetings in libraries and schools because we wanted people to be very comfortable. We had them every different time, day and night. What we really wanted to do was be very inclusive because we wanted everybody's vision to be part of this. So this is how it went. If you came to a visioning meeting, you would be greeted. We would ask you to look at a timeline, and not one of those bogus timelines that tell you only the good things. We asked you to look at a timeline that had both good and bad things from our history. We asked you to sign your name and say something significant that happened in your life. Then we asked you to sit in a big circle. We asked you to think of something that you loved or that you were passionate about in the community, something positive. Then we asked you to look at a book that showed a gentleman through example and working together change an entire community through good works and everybody being part of it to set the tone of servant leadership. Then the real work began. We divided into smaller groups that were facilitated by volunteers, and we asked people to say, if you think about our history, what was wonderful and what do we want to carry forward? Now think about our history and think about some of the things we don't love and what could you leave behind? This allowed our community to decide together to leave behind things like racism and negativity and all kinds of different things. Then we divided into even smaller groups by counting off, so you ended up being in small groups of people you maybe didn't know. In one group, we had a 6-year-old Latino boy named Martin. We had an 86-year-old kind of grumpy neighbor and several different people. They were asked to sit and think about if they were on a bus and they got to be the tour guide and they went all through the community, what would the community look like if it were a preferred community, if it got to be the community we really wanted? So each person imagined what that would be and talking to people from all over the world. Then they drew these beautiful visions in silence. Then at the end of that, every single person that participated got to share their vision. And the visions were beautiful. All right, so when we got done with that process, if all that was happening was that people just knew that their future could be better or that they could sit with somebody they didn't know and share ideas, if they had civil dialogue, that would have been a great result. But more happened. People's visions were incredible, wonderful ideas, but maybe the most incredible thing for me to watch was I watched people come in kind of unhappy or maybe tired. And when they came out of one of those visioning sessions, they were alive. They were vibrant. They were transformed. They started to think maybe we could make this community happen. And guess what we did? In the second year, we gathered thousands of visions, all kinds of ideas, and we invited everybody back to big BAM meetings. And BAM means big action meeting, because we wanted to take the visions and put them into action. We decided to focus on 3 areas: healthy green space, city cores, and experiences. So we asked all the people once they came back, hey, if you had the opportunity to work on this, would you be willing to do it? Sign your name, put your cell number down, put your email down, and we'll have meetings and make sure that it happens. And you know what? People showed up. Another 1,000 people came out. We had 3,000 in the first year. Now we're at 4,000 people being engaged. So what we did next is we asked people, if you could do something right away, what could we do in each one of these 3 areas? If you could do something 6 months to 18 months, what would you do? And if there were some long-term things that you would change, what would it be? Well, people were answering, and all of a sudden, people were starting to do stuff right away. They were doing the work themselves. It wasn't just the mayor, it wasn't just our leadership program, or it was everybody working together. It was amazing. Pop-up restaurants, pop-up galleries, experiences all over the place. People were throwing in gardens, taking pictures of it. Little grade school kids were putting flowers all over the building. Then the 6-month to 18-month stuff started happening. We had festivals. We had people coming together to do street fairs and farmers markets. And we're not talking about a couple hundred people came and it was a good time. We're talking about 3,000 people came to the music festival. We're talking about 30,000 people came to Franklin Bazaar. These were real results. So at this point, we're thinking, well, heck, if this happened, I guess we can call this a success, right? We visioned, we got people excited, they did stuff on their own. But more was to come. All of that data that we gathered together was then able to be used in long-range planning. It was put in the comprehensive plan for our community. It was used in the MET study. It was used in the park study. It was used by different organizations to raise dollars. It was even considered when we looked for the site selection of a medical school. So, whoa, oh my God, now we've hit it, right? Now we're starting to get awards, and actually we were. But here's the thing, there was more. The more we were asked about how we did this visioning process, the more we met people like economic development people and mayors and all these different people. And what they were telling us is that companies, when they decided to go into a community, they were going into communities for different reasons than they used to. It used to be just based on what kind of incentives they would get. Now, they were looking for the communities that had talented people. They were also looking for the communities that had happy millennials, the ones everybody's trying to figure out how to make happy. You know what? I know. I've got a couple of them living with me. Now, here's the thing. Without even trying, without realizing we were doing stuff that would make millennials happy and talented people happy, we were doing it. The sheer act of inviting people in to be part of the discussion, the ability for people to own when they wanted to make something different. If they could think of something that was missing in the community, we said, well, let's get it. If there's a problem, I'd say, what's the solution? How are you going to help us do that? The things that we were doing were changing the culture of our community. We were creating the culture that says if we can envision it, we can do it. And everybody's welcome to be at the table. Everybody's part of this solution. So, the actual process itself, the actual process of being inclusive, the process of coming to people and saying, my God, if you really want that kind of a garden, we're going to help you get it. We're going to help you get it. And we listened to young people. We listened to grade schoolers. We listened to high schoolers, to college students and young professionals. And we gave them not only a place at the table to tell us what they want, we said take ownership and make it happen, and we're going to brag about you all day long. All right? How cool is that? So, the reality is, if somebody calls my city miserable, I say, you obviously haven't talked to the people that have done the visioning. We're leaving the miserable behind. We are going past the amazing. And now we've become that city that people want to be in, not just because of the amenities, but because they can make the amenities happen. We've gone out of miserable, through amazing, now we've become magnetic.